Okay, we're back, and it's cold. 17 degrees, 18 degrees Celsius. What is that in Fahrenheit? 64 degrees in here. So I'm back here at the workbench, just trying to pick away at this kit little by little. But I mentioned last time I want to get this venting on here, so I think it looks best that way. But I want to fill in that gap that you see in there, and I don't like that. So we're just gonna throw some putty on there, and then we'll just sand it down and just fill in that hole. So I'm just gonna get me some basic average putty. So basic Tamiya putty. I have some other stuff, but I think this stuff dries fairly quickly and it hardens quite hard as well. So I'm just gonna use this, and yeah, I'm basically just gonna fill it in, and I want it to kind of pop out, and then I can just sand it down to shape. So just throw some putty on there, and hopefully it will dry nice and hard. Alright, that's it. Don't come out anymore. Alright, now I'm gonna want to shape this a little bit, but there it is. Okay. It's the front, and as long as it's high enough for it to harden and for me to sand it down, I think we should be okay. Just let that harden, and then we'll come back and sand it down. What I have here are the front and I guess side torso armor parts. And what I want to do is I have these rocket pod things that I have from old Zissa. And my idea was basically I want to pop these on here. Because if you look at like a normal, like an M1 Abrams tank or something like that, they have these pods with like little launchers on them, and what they use them for is to have forms of like countermeasures in case they have anything that's coming in, and so it'll release, you know, either smoke or chaff or some form of countermeasure to counteract maybe an incoming shell or maybe a missile or something like that. So I figured it would be kind of cool to have this attached here to the chest part, because it just kind of looks a little bland, just being so flat and all. And I don't want to just throw a bunch of like handles or anything like that. So I figured this would be a really cool way to just kind of spice it up a little bit. Yeah, that's just the idea I had. So we'll basically, all I have to do is just kind of sand this down because it's so angled. Just kind of make it flush, that way this will stay on there nice and neat and flush with the actual plastic there. So, yeah, we'll just jump right into that. If you can see what I'm doing right now, I'm currently sanding down this chest part so I can kind of get it somewhat flush. And I'm using a nail file that I picked up. I'm just trying to hack off as much plastic just to get it as flat as I can. Alright, so here's what I've got so far. I've since routed and kind of formed a hook of the needle. I don't know if you can see that very well. Formed a needle and basically just placed that down on the inside of this rocket pod assembly. And basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sandwich this piece inside the rocket pod cover here. So that's gonna hold that needle in place. And so I've already gone ahead and drilled out the hole, and it's pretty flush. And so what I did was I reverse drilled a hole with a pin vise from this side, and then I kind of placed it through this hole to exactly what spot I would need for it to go through on the back of the rocket pod right there. So by that I can have perfect placement every single time and have that fit in there flush for after I go ahead and paint that. So it's sitting pretty flush in there. You can barely see any light go through there. So I think that's pretty much good enough. I'm just going to sand it down just a little bit more, and then I'll go ahead and cover this whole thing up with the putty so I can cover up some of these panel lines here, and then we'll be good to go. So I'll probably pretty much do the same thing for the other side, and then we'll call it that for this part. Okay, I've just applied some putty to these two side armor parts. But pretty much what I've already done is I've gone ahead and kind of already mocked up where exactly this part's going to be fitting in, and just to make sure that these parts end up going on flush, I've added some some putty to the sides where there's still a little bit of a gap. So just to kind of fill in the gap, I've added some putty, also to fill in the panel line that was going across from there, and then another one that comes across from up here as well. So just to fill in those panel lines, as well as make sure that this part ends up being flush. I'm pretty much just gonna leave that there. I've already kind of left a rough imprint of where I need to kind of scrape away a little bit more. I'm hoping I don't end up sanding down too much, because then I would have to reapply putty and fill in that gap. But yeah, I'm just gonna wait for that to dry, and we'll get things going. Let me kind of just update you guys on where we're at so far. I was just kind of in the zone. I didn't actually bother recording anything, so I'll just kind of update you as I go. I was basically trying to mount the front, what's the word, countermeasures, I guess you can say, in the form of these rocket pods that I have here. So hopefully this, yeah, it looks like it's fully cured. It's also the next day. But yeah, I've gone ahead and actually drilled a hole with my my drill here, and made a nice clean hole going into there, and basically just gonna shove this here piece into there. So the way it's actually going to fit in is this piece is going to mount in there. It's going to swivel. It can kind of fall off pretty easily, but it's in there nice and tight, so I'm actually not worried about it falling out. I actually broke the top of this, so you can see it's kind of all frosty and stuff because of all the crazy glue I threw on there, but it'll be okay. But yeah, I'm just going to sand the inside of that crazy glue out, and then ideally this will fit in there, and I'll be able to mount that to possibly the side here, hopefully. So pretty much got that part of the backpack done as far as the mounting goes, so I'm hoping that it'll just kind of sit this way. I'm probably going to fill in this hole on the side of this mount. I'm probably gonna fill that in. And why are you not focusing? Anyway, it's kind of hollow, so I'm probably gonna fill that in. Add some extra details, so that's pretty much where we're at so far. We'll get going, and then I think last time around we were adding putty to this like vent piece that I wanted to do, and I've already gone ahead and added a second layer on there so it'll be nice and straight. So I'm just gonna smooth that down and we'll get going. I've gone ahead and already sanded that down. It's looking pretty nice and flush there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that's turning out. So anyway, pretty much that's gonna go on here like so, nice and flat with the surface. So I'm thinking that's gonna turn out pretty good. I'm not gonna attach it now because I want to paint that, in the interest of saving myself the headache that is trying to mount this thing. As cool as it is, I'm just gonna scrap the idea. But basically, I had the idea to just kind of use these basic hinges and a piece of peg and an old polycap. This one, which is PCI. And basically, what I decided to do is there's this. This is bottom assembly here that I took off of that Red Warrior. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, where'd the polycap go? This polycap here. Take that polycap here. I'm going to shove that right in here. I'm going to try to get that to match up and align as much as I can. Right now it's not fitting as well as I would like it right now, but pretty much. The plan is to get this piece of runner to go in through that hole into the hole on this mount over here, and it's fairly tight, so hopefully it'll kind of hold. But that is the general idea. So I have to, clearly the polycap is not fitting, so I'm gonna have to probably shave a little bit off on this side to make it kind of sit flush. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So it's just small modifications here and there to make the logistics of everything kind of work out. And I am by no means a professional at modeling or modifications or even custom projects alone. I'm learning just the same as you guys. I'm just documenting the process of it. So you know, at least for the most part, I can look back at these and laugh at some of the mistakes, or you know, just the learning process in general. It still will not fit. I think it's a little too thick on the outs, on the top. So we will shave off even more and more and more until we get this right. Honestly, to be completely honest, I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, I'm putting a lot of hours into this, and just like the sheer amount of time that I'm putting into just thinking up different solutions for problems that I'm coming up into, it's actually taking up a lot of time. So yeah, hopefully this learning process will help me shave off time on just, you know, thinking up logistics of stuff like that later on down the road. But you are still not wanting to go in there. Jeez. Stubborn polycap. Get in there, yo. There we go. Okay. I think that's it. Hold on, let me get this peg in there. And the peg seems to be a little bit too big. That's not cool. Alright. Fish that polycap out again and make the hole a little bit bigger. Brain fart. Alright, that's in there, and it's, the polycap is plenty tight for it to you know, swivel and stuff, and eventually, after I get everything all, you know, put together, hopefully it'll look something it'll look something fierce. So I've managed to finally finish the test fit of how I'm gonna mount this this cannon, and don't mind the orange and stuff, but I got the tip glued on there finally. So yeah, so pretty much I have this this mount that goes straight into the backpack in there. That's a piece of pop plate that I'm gonna have to sand down, but that's connected to this joint, which is connected to a piece of runner that is going straight into a polycap that's built into the bottom half of this assembly that I ripped off of that Red Warrior. So yeah, it basically swivels in 3 different places. One place up here, one place here, and then another one down there. So so once fully extended, we have a Zaku with a scope that can actually sight where he wants to shoot, and once he's finished, I'll just sit up there. So what I've decided to do is actually, I've gone ahead and removed the back part of the Shinanju bazooka, because I had actually come across this piece where, so yeah, the back part of the Shinanju is gone. So that was hacked off, and I'm gonna be replacing that with this part of the HG Zaku Thunderbolt big gun. And I just felt like that the big, nice, chunky aspect of like this base part would be pretty cool. And I wanted to kind of spruce things up a little bit so that it wouldn't just kind of look obviously like I just slapped the big gun part on there. So I'm going to be adding some, you know, little bells and whistles. All these stickers are coming off. But what I've decided to do is I've decided to use a pin vise and drill out some holes of the existing, like I guess, like rivets, I guess you can say, in this part here. And basically what this is I took some dollar store like key holder rings. I don't know how else to say it. You know, just a regular key holder thing that you know, you'll stick your keys on, and then you'll, you know, screw that on there. And I've gone ahead and I cut them in half so that I could use the existing like metal parts that are on both ends, and by doing that I could kind of actually, you know, kind of use that as sort of like detail dress up parts or whatever. And so it's actually been easy. It actually makes it easier for me to actually put the part in there. So I've already gone ahead and drilled out a hole. It's the opposite of this one. I drilled out the hole and just basically had this, I don't want to take it out, but basically a part like that looks like that. Just kind of plug right in. So this one's a little bit bigger than that one, so what I did was I basically drilled out a bigger hole. I'm gonna put that in here, and then I'm gonna have them just kind of wire back into a different area of the actual gun so that it'll kind of, you know, not look so boring and plain. So this one's gonna go into that hole in there like that, and then this bigger one is actually gonna extend a little bit further back from here all the way to that hole back there. And so yeah, I don't know. It's turning out pretty good. I don't wanna paint this wiring, so I'm probably just gonna leave that on there for now. Just drill out the holes, and then I'm gonna cover that up with masking tape, and then just paint over this whole piece here. So hopefully that'll turn out looking good. And so yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it for that. And yeah, so I mean, basically I'm going to use this part, and I've hacked off this tube area from the Shinanju bazooka so that it'll fit into that hole in there pretty seamlessly, just like that. So I've gone ahead and already cemented this whole area here, and pretty much just gonna attach that, and that'll pretty much be what the whole cannon will look like. I want to kind of spruce things up a little bit here, because especially right here in the tube here, it's a little plain. So I'll probably throw some details and stuff on there. But other than that, it's looking pretty solid. I haven't decided what I want to do with the back part yet, but I don't want to just make it look like this typical normal big gun by sticking these two, I don't know, capacitors or whatever you want to call it. So I was actually thinking about flipping this upper assembly, but I don't know. Still gonna have to work that out. But the possibilities are endless, if you know what I mean. Alright guys, I'm gonna just kind of start by delving into priming some of the parts, especially, namely like the front armor parts, because I kind of want to see where the imperfections are, because with all the putty and stuff on there, it's kind of difficult to see what's going on. So I'm gonna lay down a single primer, a layer of primer, so that I can kind of see what areas I need to sand down and see the imperfections. That way I can kind of just go over it again with a sanding stick and stuff. So with that, and then I'm gonna prime some of the parts that I've already basically finished up, like that vent thing right there, parts of the gun barrel and stuff like that. I'm thinking I want to add some details to this, but I figure, it doesn't hurt to prime stuff anyway. So yeah, I'm gonna go through basically a lot of the inner joint parts, like in the arms, because basically I don't really have to do a whole lot to them. I'm just gonna paint them like a gunmetal, or some form of like a silver or something like that. Maybe something darker probably, but there's not going to be any detailing up or anything of that sort for the joints. And so yeah, basically, the joints are going to show through the areas of the kit that's not covered by the armor. So I'm going to go through the joints, and that's pretty much it. So I'll kind of talk you through some of it, or how to use spray cans if you've never used them before. But I'll give you, disclaimer right now, it's always economically cheaper to just invest in an airbrush. But I'll explain to you why that is. So yeah, let's just get straight to it, okay? For the purpose of this this example, just for me to show you, I'm gonna wear this because you can hear me a lot better when I'm wearing this compared to the respirator, but I'll switch to that later. But anyway, let me kind of explain to you why it's actually much cheaper to use airbrushes compared to a spray can. Now, let me just clean the tip of this real quick. As far as maintenance goes, if you ever have like like a spray can with some paint kind of gooped up in the middle, you're gonna want to clean that out. So just grab some thinner of whatever kind it is. Typically, it's gonna be lacquer or maybe enamel, one of those two. So you're going to want to clean off the nozzle. Easy does it. Okay. So throw down the garbage. Now let me explain to you why it is that we use airbrush. Now, the basic simple concept of it is that you have compressed air inside in the form of chemicals, or also known as like propellant or whatever, right? And so inside here you're going to have chemical propellant mixed in with already like pre-thinned paint. And so with that, it's just going to basically shoot it at the front at a fixed amount of paint at a fixed pressure. Depending on how much propellant is left. Towards the end, it's going to sputter and kind of die. But Ideally, yeah, it's just gonna spit out all the paint that's inside the contents of the can at a fixed pressure at a fixed amount of paint. So pretty simply, you have absolutely no control over how much paint comes out. It's just going to be one continuous spray. Whereas if you have an airbrush, in the case of like your common dual action, you have the ability to basically adjust in two different ways. You have the amount of air that you can put out, which is adjustable either on your airbrush itself or through the regulator, as well as you can, as well as the fact that you can adjust how much paint by the second action, which is forward and back. So the more you pull back, the more paint will be added into the air mix, which will allow it to atomize and go into your plastic. So if I wanted to just use very little of it, you're just gonna pull back very little. Whereas compared to this, it's just you're gonna push it down. That's all you got. So that's probably the biggest difference, which makes this an extremely bad choice in terms of value, because you're going to be wasting so much paint by spraying past whatever you're doing, and so you're just going to be wasting a lot of it. Whereas with an airbrush, you can kind of start your spray a little bit out by just putting air and then slowly add paint to the mix of air. So that's probably the biggest issue as far as value goes, which really, unfortunately, makes spray cans really not a very good choice. But on the flip side, you don't need a compressor, you don't need an airbrush, you don't need, I mean, hell, you don't even need this, a booth with with ventilation and build this whole thing up. It goes outside. You don't need all that. You can just take the parts outside, and just and you're done. Whereas maintenance is a very big issue as far as airbrush. The initial investment is going to be a lot more, but you're going to be spending a lot less in paint. So that's probably the biggest drawback as to the pro and con to having spray can compared to airbrush. But anyway, like I said, this kit's going to be done in solely spray cans. So modifications or not, I'm not going to be using my airbrush, and yeah, so we'll just jump straight into it. Now, for those of you who don't know how to use spray cans, I'm going to kind of just throw in a little small tutorial in here for you guys, and then we'll get going. So this can is just about empty. When you shake it, you can kind of hear, like, you can feel whether or not there's like any liquid slushing about. So anyway, I'm just gonna spray this part down real quick because it's not very big. So anyway, you obviously want to shake your can thoroughly, and then what you want to do is, instead of spraying directly onto the part, the reason you don't do that is because of the fact that by doing that, you're gonna be at high risk of the tip sputtering and the initial blast of the paint coming out being way too thick. So what we do is, typically people will say spray past the part, which means you're going to start at an angle that's off the part. You're going to start there, that's where the initial spray is going to go, and then you're going to go straight across. So past and then straight across. Past, straight across. You can do it past downwards and upwards, or upwards and downwards, doesn't matter. I usually go from left to right because I'm right-handed. You can go from right to left if you like, doesn't really matter, just as long as you have the initial spray that's not directly on the part. So typically it'll look something like this. This is already dead, I'm not going to use that one. Shake. Always gotta shake thoroughly. Alright. So once again, you're gonna spray past the part and then go across. So primer basically shows you all the imperfections in there. I don't think you can see because of the light, but if you look, there are definitely imperfections in there that I'm going to have to clean up. So that's a really good thing. I think that's about it for this part. I think I can, I'm going to go and sand that down later again, and then we'll come back to that. So yeah, not too difficult. Just spray past the part and then go across. That's pretty much it. I always keep a toothbrush handy just to kind of get off any dust that doesn't get off by you know, blowing on it or whatever. So. Because you don't want any dust or anything getting trapped underneath the layer of paint, because that kind of sucks. So same thing, I'm going to spray past the part. Now spray paint tends to go through really thick, So what you want to do is you want to kind of leave some time. If it doesn't go on in one coat, you're going to do it through a second coat. You don't want to try to paint it all in one try, because you're gonna put on way too much paint at once. That's probably the biggest drawback as far as spray pans go. That's good. Yeah. I got some cleanup I got to do, but that's good. You prime so that you can see what imperfections you have in the plastic, and then you can take it from there and fix it. So much paint is wasted. Ugh. Okay, so that's just about all the parts that I got done today. I'm gonna probably go through all these parts again so that I can kind of fix up some of the stuff. Like for example, I got some pieces of dust stuck on this here part, so there's some dust trapped underneath the primer, which is okay. I mean, that's why we prime parts. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna go through it with some sanding sticks and sandpaper and stuff again, and then we'll come back to this later. So anyway, that's gonna be the end of work in progress number 3, I believe. Maybe number 4. No, don't really remember. So anyway, we'll come back and hopefully these work in progress videos are informative and interesting for you guys to watch. I'm not actually sure. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys want more of, like, I guess, detailed work in progress parts of what exactly I'm doing, or would you guys rather have me just kind of update you guys on what I did and just tell you verbally and then just show you what the end product is? I don't know. Part of me thinks some of you guys are okay with like the super long videos, and some of y'all are like, it's a little too long. Trying to find a good balance. But anyway, I think that's it for today. We'll come back to the next work in progress, and I'll update you guys more as I kind of go along and you know, just do more stuff to this kit. So anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next work in progress. Bye.